I'm going to just tell you a little bit about RTB because I talk to a lot of advertisers, and there's a lot of talk about RTB, but a lot of people aren't sure exactly what it is, how it works, what you can actually do. So I'm just going to do a super quick rundown on what's going on with RTB. First of all, can everybody hear me? Am I addressing the microphone adequately? Yes, good. Okay. Who am I? I'm an independent consultant. Over the last few years, I've worked for publishers selling direct deals, selling CPI inventory. I opened the London office for a company called TradeMob, data-driven, basically mobile advertising company. Most recently, I worked for App Annie, and now I'm doing user acquisition consultancy, mostly for startups across London. And I'm not associated with any networks or agencies or RTB platforms or anything like that. So once we get away from the facts, it's strictly my opinion. Take it or leave it. Yeah. So this article from Business Insider is actually talking about desktop ad banners, but the vibe is the same with mobile. I mean, it's worse in mobile. Banner ads don't work very well. I've never intentionally clicked on a banner ad, you know, the little ones at the bottom of the screen. And when I was at TradeMob, we released a study that said 40% of clicks were either fraudulent or accidental, and that's kind of a big part of your budget. Over the last few years, there's been this kind of vibe in the industry that RTB is going to be the thing that saves the banner ad. And more now we're getting great new formats. We're seeing a lot more full screen interstitials, but there's still this sort of momentum behind RTB and kind of a lot of hype that comes with it. And part of the momentum behind RTB with mobile is really that mobile is going to follow desktop advertising, and RTB has become a really big part of digital advertising on desktop. But there are two pretty critical issues that make mobile really different from desktop advertising. One, at the bottom, actually I'm going to start at the bottom, is that on the desktop, the click is the thing, right? Once you click, you're through to the web page, and you're showing your consumer the shiny toy or the jumper or whatever it is that you're trying to sell them. You can deep link it. The click is the thing. When we're talking about advertising native applications, clicks are good, installs are the thing. You have to have launch for it to even matter. And that's a huge difference. And to go along with that, last click attribution isn't nearly as easy because of all the tracking issues that we've had over the years. I think most of you guys are probably aware of the evolution of attribution tracking over the last few years, starting with you know, spreadsheets, UDIDs, and timestamps, and then evolving all the way into IDFA today. And this is important so that we can have attribution for our channels, so that we can attribute that install to the click that it came from. And it's a really simple concept, but to be able to optimize anything post-install, you've got to be able to attribute the install back to the last click. And so the IDFA is the identifier in iOS that Apple is now providing, and that's enabling targeting and RTB things to happen much more effectively now. So how does it work? Just really basically, there are two cool things that are going on in this picture. One thing is the ad exchange. So a long time ago, well, probably still actually happening today, if you're an ad network and your supply exceeds your demand, you've got remnant inventory somewhere, you know, in a back room. There's a deal takes place where one ad network sells their leftover inventory to another ad network. And this is still happening, but what that results in is lack of transparency, really, for advertiser. You don't know actually what inventory you're buying, and you end up paying for it 3 or 4 times, depending upon who's buying from who. And so what an ad exchange does is aggregates on the one side demand, on the other side supply, and it minimizes the sort of buying. The other cool thing is the real-time bidding. So if you've got a real-time bidding enabled demand-side platform, that means that they can you can choose which kind of impressions you want to buy, what kind of users you want to reach out to in real time, and on the other side, and how much you want to pay for it. And on the other side, your suppliers can decide which kind of bids to accept. So that on the demand side, we're optimizing toward revenue targets, toward KPIs, and on the supply side, they're optimizing toward maximizing their ad revenue. And then we've also got third-party data coming in from other companies that will give us data on user groups of users and user behavior and stuff like that. And in theory, you can do lots of cool things with this stuff. You can do retargeting. So the best example of this is cart abandonment. If you've got a list of users that you know have put products into the shopping trolley and then abandoned cart, you can give that list of IDFAs to your DSP and say, if those IDFAs come up, I want you to bid on them, and they're worth this much to us because all they have to do is check out. That is a cool idea. Negative targeting. You can say, I don't want anybody that already has my app or that already, any list of characteristics. You can say, look, we don't even want those guys. And that can maximize your efficiency. Geo-targeting, hyper-local stuff. In theory, you could maybe target even where people are at the time the impression comes up. Also demographic and behavioral targeting. This is done on the web a lot with cookies. And cross-device audience extension. However, in practice, this is where opinion comes in. You're probably going to run into two problems. The first is scale. So yes, maybe it's working beautifully. You're seeing amazing ROI, but you're only getting 5 installs a week or 5 buys a week. Obviously the technology works, but not. Is it useful? The other problem is cost. So you might be able to do the kinds of things that you want to do. Technically, you might be able to implement them, but maybe your cost per install are coming out like 50 quid or something like that. But it does work. So if you're interested in buying RTB traffic, the thing to keep in mind is that it's a bit of a dark art. And you're going to have to test things and see what works for you. You can't expect miracles from it. And so just to give you a quick rundown on what's out there, this is not a comprehensive list, but this is just a quick list of the exchanges that are out there. MoPub has mostly got in-app inventory, recently acquired by Twitter, and I think we're going to see some really interesting stuff going on with Twitter. I think Twitter actually spoke this morning. DoubleClick, Rubicon has been historically in desktop and are moving more and more into the mobile space. And then we've got companies like Smato and Interactive that are sort of classic mobile SSPs. And then DSPs, which is what we're probably more interested in as advertisers. The first thing you might notice about this list is that it's a little bit longer. This isn't even a comprehensive list either, but it's quite a fragmented space. And there are a couple of reasons for this. The first being that it's very easy for an agency or a network to rebrand as a DSP by just saying, hey, we're a DSP. There's a technology is what differentiates a real DSP from not a DSP. You may have, if it's really an ad network or an agency that's just decided to call themselves a DSP, there'll be much less, the technology won't be there. And you could, it's very hard to tell as buyer without transparency where your traffic is coming from, how they're buying it, how much of it is programmatic and how much of it is manual buying. So is it really an algorithm, or have you got a room full of buyers somewhere that are sitting and it's not quite as efficient? It can work, but not quite as efficient, and you should know what you're paying for. And so I think the real sort of take home from this is that RTB is actually really, really promising, and there's some great stuff happening, but it's early days. The tech infrastructure isn't, there's no standardization. Publishers aren't all passing back the same kinds of information. I think there's still a lot of privacy issues, like regulatory issues, that are being worked out about, there are all kinds of companies with fantastic information on user behavior, but how we're going to be able to use that across countries, even within countries, and be compliant with legislation is still, it's all still sort of being worked out. And I think one of the big take-homes is that if you can, one of the biggest advantages of RTB is transparency, and buying from an exchange is transparency. You should be able to get publisher IDs back from who you're buying traffic from, understand where the traffic is coming from, and have a good look at your reporting, because you should know what you're paying for. And I would say, do buy from an agency or a trading desk if you can. If you've got the budget and it's worth playing around with RTB, it's really hard. It's quite hard to do it properly, and there's a lot of skill set that comes with doing it effectively. It's probably better for you to hire somebody to do it that knows what they're doing, rather than try to do it in-house if you've got the cash. Having said that, a lot of people are wanting to develop the skills in-house. If you really want to do that, don't think of it as a cost-saving exercise. You're going to spend just as much money testing it, trying to figure out how does this thing work, what kind of targeting is going to work for us, what kind of retargeting is going to work for us, as you would by just hiring an agency. So that would be my real take-home from this. And my name is Adrian. If anybody wants to contact me, do feel free. And that's it.